You're welcome to the 7th video of the 4th part, which is the sub-module of Module 23 of the Virtual Advanced Excel and Financial Modeling Training Program. On this video, we shall continue to look at how to construct our financial model. Now, we have seen how to construct our income statement projection. That is our monthly income statement projection. On this video, we shall see how these figures from the monthly income projection will feed into the cash flow projection. Here, these projections are made based on accrual basis, and the cash flow projections are made based on cash basis. Now, of course, we have to earn revenue as reflected on the monthly income statement before we can receive payment for them. Also, we have to incur operating costs before we can make payment for them. That is why we have the monthly income statement before we can now work on the cash projection. Now, before we look at this, I have created another worksheet that will feed into the cash projection. Now let us look at the income model of this company. There are 5 sources of income as illustrated on the previous videos. Now we can see this model, and of course we want to recognize cash receipts from these sources of income, which we shall feed into our cash projection. But because of the variability or variance in collecting cash for various revenue model, we are going to create a separate worksheet for these calculations. Now you can see that the SMS advert is on cash basis. These are our assumptions. While the broadband subscribers pay 1 month in arrears, that is, the revenue from mobile voice and the SMS advert is on cash basis, whereas the other ones are paid 1 month in arrears by the customers. So we are going to calculate cash collections from our customers for this revenue model. So what we are going to do now, we are going to create a formula separately for each of them. Now for the SMS advert, since it is based on cash basis, we are going to link the revenue from the monthly income statement to this cash flow, to the cash flow calculation worksheet. So I will use a conditional formula that if the date here is the same with the dates we have on the monthly income statement, Excel should pick the figure here. Otherwise, Excel should write 0. So I will now extend this formula to the rest of the cells. Now, the same way it applies to revenue from mobile voice. I will say if what we have here is the same with the date we have here, Excel should pick this information, this figure, otherwise write 0. So I'll also extend the range to other cells. Now the other ones are based on 1 month in arrears. So now if you look at the broadband internet service, you are not going to collect anything in January, you will collect in February. So January sales will be collected in February. So we are going to link this February sales to what we have in January for the broadband internet service, and we also extend the range to other cells. Also, we shall do the same for fixed lines. we are also going to link the income in January, which will be collected in February. And then finally, the income from virtual private network services, which is paid 1 month in arrears. So it goes in this order. So having done this, we are going to now feed all these collections into our cash flow projection sheet. Now let's look at our cash flow projection sheet. I have already written a description, collection from sales. So I would say that if the date here is the same with the date we have here, Excel should pick this figure, otherwise return 0. So we can extend the range. So these are the collections from sales for 36 months. Okay. Now, after we have completed this, we are going to do the same thing for collection from in respect of our direct cost. Now, the calculation here looks different because the assumption we have here is that the basis of collection is different, of payment is different from the way this is, as we are going to do some pro rata allotments, unlike what we have here. So like the proportion of collection in arrears will be 40%, while 60% will be collected in the same month. Now if you observe, I have formatted these cells. I created custom format. You can look at the formula bar and you can see that I created custom format so that Excel can use these cells for calculation. So if you want to look at the format I created, you can go to the format cells and look at the custom format I created. Now, what we are going to do now, in this case, we are going to have Excel list all the direct costs from this range to this point, and then we are going to now calculate payments. We are going to now calculate payments from these direct costs. Now, if you observe, you will discover that the cells here, the figures we are going to align here, we are going to align these figures vertically. But this figure here we have, these are the figures, they are horizontal. Now, if you would have to link all these one by one, it will take you a lot of time if you would have to link everything one after the other, because we cannot use a simple linking. So we are going to use a special Excel formula which is called transpose. That is a special function that you are going to allow Excel to transpose the vertical or reorient the horizontal layout of the figures vertically on these cells, so that you will still be referring, or this figure here will still be referencing the information from the monthly income statement. So we are going to say we are starting from January. We are going to use, the first thing we are going to do, we are going to select the whole range of cells where we want Excel to populate the figures. Now I want you to note that the transpose function is an array formula. An array formula is a formula that calculates multiple values at the same time, and for an array formula to be activated, you have to simultaneously press the Control and Shift and Enter key at the same time. Now we are going to first of all put our cell pointer from the beginning of the month where we want the figures to be populated, and we are going to select the range of cells. Now note that range of cells where we want to populate the figures. So note that the cell pointer is still referenced on C18. That is the cell address is C18, which is here. So we are going to type a formula and say equal to transpose. So this is a transpose function. It is an array formula. So we are going to select the array of cells where you are picking the figures, which is from this point to this point. So this is the array of cells. Of course, you know this is vertically or horizontally oriented. They will want it to be vertically oriented on the other sheet. So I'm going to hold down Control, Shift, and Enter key and press it simultaneously. Oh, that was a shift. Let me repeat the process again. So you can see that you press the Control and the Shift and Enter key at the same time. You can see that everything has been entered properly. And of course, you cannot delete part of an array formula. So these are the figures you have here. So what we will now do, because for any sale you make in any expenses you incurred in December, you are going to pay 60% in December and 40% in January. But because there are no transactions in December, we are starting from January. We are concerned with what we are going to receive or what we are going to pay in January. So you will say equal to the sum of the proportion of this cell. You are going to make this absolute reference so that you will still refer to the same calculation, multiply by what we have here, and the sum of this cell, make it absolute reference, multiply by what you have here. So that is 60% will be collected in January plus 40% in December. And of course, we had nothing in December. You can test this, that 60% of this cell is actually this figure. So if you now drag, what you will collect in February is 40% of C18, which is 40% of January, and 60% of C19. So you can drag. So this is the total collections from, total payment for direct expenses. Now you can repeat the same process for other item of other operating costs, such as, like, you have the direct operating costs and you have other operating costs. So we are going to repeat this process, and then, having completed this, we are going to do the same for payroll costs. If they are collected in the same, payments are made in the same month it was incurred, so we are going to repeat the same process, and subsequently we would have completed our cash flow projection as well as our monthly income statement before we shall now look at how to now feed all these our working sheets into our financial statements. Thank you very much for listening.